Hey, I'm Dustin.
And I'm Steve. Welcome back, listeners, to the finest phototainment in the world. That's right, you're listening to another episode of the Wedding Photo Hangover podcast, an irreverent look at wedding photography. This podcast, like aspirin, will help you recover from your wedding hangover. Guys, we have a very special guest on the episode this week. Joining us today is Matt Payne of the F-Stop Collaborate and Listen podcast, which is a pun all the millennial photographers out there who listen to our podcast won't understand. Since Ice Ice Baby and, Vanilla Ice just in general were both way before your time. But Matt, aside from having a terrific podcast, he also has a ton of awards and accolades for his photography. I gotta be honest, I have no idea which ones are the most prestigious and which ones I should highlight here because I'm not really plugged that into landscape photography as a whole. So I'll just say that there were a lot, and it seemed very, very impressive to me. Matt, thank you so much for joining us today.
No problem. I think the most important award is I'm my mom's favorite photographer, so that counts, right?
Was there a lot of competition for that one?
No, there's not. In fact, my wife actually hates my photography. She makes fun of me all the time. So
what?
I think that's what spouses are for, though. Like keep you grounded, and So yeah.
Does she hate your photography, or does she hate you leaving the house and going on camping trips all the time? Which one is it?
I think she just likes giving me shit. To be honest with you.
That sounds like my kind of relationship.
Yeah, it's fine. It's mostly well deserved anyway. So.
So you've been doing photography for quite a long time. I was just doing some research into you and stuff, and it seems like you started out a pretty long time ago with hiking, backpacking, all that kind of stuff, and that kind of naturally evolved into you doing photography as well. Is that how you would describe it, or?
Yeah, 100%. I was originally just kind of bringing my camera with me. Excuse me. Because I was a mountain climber here in Colorado, so my goal was to climb the highest 100 mountains in Colorado. And
which you did, right?
Which I did. I finished that goal last year. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. And I wanted to be able to show people what it was like to do that. So I started bringing a camera with me, and the more and more I got into that, the more I got into taking photos and learning about photography. And, I'd be like, oh, I wonder if I could do this, or I want to do this. And the camera I had at the time sucked and couldn't do any of the stuff I wanted to do with it. So then I started researching and investing more money, and I was completely self-taught. I just checked out every book in the library I could find about photography, and boom, 10 years later, here I am. I still take shitty photos. So there you go.
Nice.
You do not take shitty photos. I've seen your work. It's really good.
Oh.
And for the listeners out there, he mentioned something called a library. This was a place that we had pre-Wikipedia and Google. Just want you guys to be on the same page as, when we're talking about these foreign things.
If we're getting ages too, also millennials out there, you might not understand this yet, but Matt, Dustin, and I were all drinking beers tonight. Matt, what are you drinking?
I am drinking a beer called the Reverend, which is from Avery Brewing Company in Boulder, Colorado. And it's a Belgian quad, and it's a 10% ABV.
Nice. So it's a light beer.
Yeah, it's
10%.
Yeah, exactly.
10% in a can. Love it.
That sounds like a really delicious beer, Matt. I want to try that. That sounds real good.
Probably my favorite, dude. It's very sweet.
Are you really into the Belgians, or?
I am. That's kind of my jam nowadays. Yeah, Belgians. I was super into IPAs. I used to live in Portland, Oregon, and when I lived there, I was really into hoppy IPAs. But I don't know. Since I've been back in Colorado, I've been more into the maltier Belgians. Yeah.
Cool. I started out drinking Belgians when I first started drinking beer, and progressed into IPAs now. But I still love Belgians. In fact, tonight I'm drinking a Taxman Brewing Company Deduction Ale, which is a Belgian-style Dubbel.
Beautiful.
That.
It is 8%. Not quite as strong as you.
Where's that brewery?
Taxman, that's an Indiana brewery.
Okay. I didn't know they had breweries in Indiana.
Indiana has actually some really good breweries. We got Three Floyds. You've heard of Three Floyds, I would assume.
I have. Yeah, you're right. I was really just finding any way I could find to make fun of Indiana.
See, it sucks because you're in Colorado and there's literally no reason, nothing we can do to make fun of Colorado.
Oh, sure you can.
Okay. Make fun of it for us. What can you make fun of Colorado for?
I mean, people want to just move here so they can get high and smoke pot.
I don't understand. I thought you were going to make fun of them. Dustin, what are you drinking tonight?
I am drinking a Dragon's Milk straight from the teat. This is one of their reserve specials. It is a raspberry hibiscus bourbon barrel aged stout. And just because you guys are wimps, this is an 11% ABV.
Wimps, okay.
But just for the record, I don't like this beer.
You don't like your New Holland beer? Matt, what did you say about it?
Tastes like someone spilled their tea into my beer.
Yeah.
But I'll drink it anyways because I can't waste beer.
Matt, you said you don't like bourbon barrel-aged beers or barrel-aged beers in general?
I typically don't, just because I'd rather just drink whiskey at that point.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I like it. I had a 14% the other weekend, and it was... I should have just drank whiskey. But it was good. It tasted all right, and it tasted much better by the end than it did at the beginning.
I'm hoping that's the case with this one.
We're rooting for you, buddy.
Thanks. If you see me start slouching in my chair,
just cock it back and loosen up your lips, open your throat, and just take it down. Take it down real fast. Yeah.
And go grab a Taxman.
Yeah, you got some of those in your fridge.
So it's funny. I actually just 10 minutes before we got on here, finished recording a podcast for my podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And my guest was drinking some abomination, which was like lemonade Keystone Light.
Oh, no.
Delicious.
No.
Yeah. And he said when he went into the liquor store to buy it, he said, so tell me about this beer. And they're like, they were like, well, so we all really, really wanted to hate it, but we all actually kind of like it. And he's like, all right, I'll try it. And he said the same thing. He's like, I really wanted to hate it, but it's pretty good.
Yeah, I haven't tried it yet, but I was at a cookout and all the girls were drinking it and they said the same thing. And then next cookout I went to, all of their husbands were drinking it. And they're like, I want to hate it so bad, but it's like they're trying to hide it in like koozies or whatever.
Yeah.
And they're like, Dustin, do you want felt like a sort of a very secretive thing, like in the cooler behind the grill. That's where we're keeping the pink natties.
Just get a cider at that point. Like, who are you kidding?
Hey, don't make fun of cider, dude. So there's not to digress, but
no, that's okay. We're gonna go with this digression.
I like it. So there's actually a cidery in the Olympic Peninsula in Washington called Finn River. And they have a habanero cider, which is to die for. It is so good. Like
that
amazing.
Sounds like the sort of thing that would really hurt my butthole the next day.
If you're a wimp, as Dustin would say.
As Dustin would say.
So yeah.
Perfect.
Well played.
So, Matt, I saw you grew up in Colorado Springs, and you spent a lot of time there hiking with. Did you say you were hiking with your parents when you were younger in Colorado Springs?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. My dad, his goal in the 70s and 80s was to climb the highest 100 mountains, and so that's how I got into it to begin with. So, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Did your dad ever make it to the?
He never did because he got into like the high 70s. And then I don't know, he's like, they're good parents as opposed to me. I'm not a good parent. and when I got into like a late elementary school, middle school age and high school, I was really good at baseball. So like they would just go to all my baseball games all year. And so he just stopped hiking for a long time. And then, yeah, he just stopped doing it. So he never did finish his goal. But yeah, it's too bad he's such a good parent because I think it would have been cool to see him finish.
Is he still alive or?
Yeah, he's still alive. He's still lives in Colorado Springs. Yeah.
Okay, I was gonna say I saw a picture of you and him up on top of one of the mountains together.
Yeah, that was. I think that was probably Handy's Peak, which is one of the easier 14,000 foot mountains in Colorado. But yeah, that's one of the last ones I did with him. Yeah.
Does he still go on hikes? Is he still climbing, or is he kind of past that?
No, man, he got like double knee replacements, and yeah, he does all kinds of weird shit now. He makes like ancient weapons, like out of stone and wood. And he makes his own bows and his own arrowheads and does all kinds of crazy stuff like that.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That's really cool.
Totally random.
Yeah. It's like preparing for that like zombie apocalypse.
You guys ever watch that show called Forged in Fire?
No.
I think it's on TLC or History Channel. Maybe, yeah, History Channel. They like get all these weaponsmiths, like modern day weaponsmiths who own like their own forges in their house, like in their garage. And it's like a competition to make weapons. And he loves watching that show. And it's actually a pretty cool show. You should check it out. Forged in Fire.
So if one of our listeners was thinking about starting out in landscape photography, what would you recommend they buy, like camera lens wise, as a good starting place? Fortunately,
I think it's pretty easy nowadays to buy a camera that doesn't suck, you know? Like I feel like most of the cameras nowadays are pretty solid. Anything that's been made since 2012, 2013 is pretty fantastic. I would probably recommend somebody buy something used to start out with, just because like if you're not sure you want to get into landscape photography, you don't need to spend like $3,000-$4,000 on gear just to learn that you're not into it. So like I would pick up I don't know, even something lightweight like a Sony A6500 or something and a kit lens and just try that out. I started out with a Nikon D7000 and a 18-105 kit lens, which was a nice range. And I got really into shooting night photography and, like photos of the Milky Way and stuff like that.
Yeah, I saw a bunch of your awards were for that.
Yeah, and so I bought early on, I bought a wide angle. It was a 11-16 Tokina f2.8. I think you can buy one now for like $400. Like it's pretty cheap for what it can do. But yeah, I wouldn't go crazy until you learn kind of if you want to do landscapes or not. I'd say if you already know your chops as a photographer in some other way, like portrait or event, my guess is a lot of the gear you have already is going to be really good for landscape photography. It's pretty much all the same ideas, you know. You can do a lot of creative stuff with 85 or 135 prime. You can. I personally like shooting with primes a lot just because they're lightweight, and I do a lot of backpacking, and I like to have a really light kit. So I guess it just depends on kind of what your goals are as a photographer.
When you're backpacking, how many days do you usually go out for?
I'd say anywhere from like 3 to 5 is kind of average for me. I usually don't have enough time off from work to do more than that. But yeah, 3 to 5 is probably average.
And what are the concerns when you're out for like 3 to 5 days with things, just simple things like having batteries that are charged? Do you bring like a solar charger or something with you, or do you just bring like a bunch of different batteries that are fully charged before you leave? Yeah,
so I'm a little strange. I'm a little weird. I shoot Sony, and just because I like how small the camera and the lenses are, but I only have four batteries. And but what I do is I have one of those 20,000 milliamp Anchor external batteries, and the Sony A7R2 and I think the A7R3 also, you can actually shoot with the camera while it's being charged or powered by an external battery. So like I just bring that with me. It weighs, I don't know, about as much or twice as much as a cell phone. It's not too bad. And yeah, I've never run out of batteries ever. I'd say if you're shooting Canon or Sony, or I'm sorry, Canon or Nikon, you probably don't have to worry too much about batteries. Like 2 or 3 batteries, you're probably going to have enough, unless you're doing a lot of time lapse work or things of that nature. Yeah, I don't usually hear of people running out of batteries.
Mm-hmm.
I think you have to be careful about exposure to the elements and things like that. Especially as a Sony shooter. Sonys aren't the best weatherproofed cameras, so I like to bring it's basically like a plastic sock that if it's raining, I'll put my camera in it and shoot with that. But I don't know, I'm trying to think of what else. It's good to have a backpack that's comfortable, that can go long miles. I don't like to backpack with an f-stop gear. I like to use a Osprey. I have an Osprey Exos 48. A lot of people like the 58, but I'm like really minimal when I go out. And then I usually bring like a f-stop ICU, which is like those internal camera units that, you can put like 3 or 4 or 5 lenses in it and your camera, and kind of just stuff it into your backpack and you're good to go.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So if somebody was looking to get started like with doing like a backpacking trip for like photography, like landscape purposes, would you recommend that their first time out they bring a camera with them, or would you recommend that they just go out like a few times just to get acclimated to the idea of hiking?
Yeah, so I would say it depends on your experience level as a outdoorsman. I would hate to tell people not to bring their camera because, you're going to probably see something you want to take a picture of. But maybe don't bring all your gear with you. Maybe just bring 1 or 2 lenses. I would say it's pretty important to learn like basic skills, like, how to put up a tent, what gear to bring, how to pack in your pack. Most outdoor stores, like wherever you live, like either if it's an REI or if it's a local store, like they usually have free classes you can take where they can teach you most of that stuff. And I would say just do like an overnight trip, like a 3-mile out and back, like one night, just to kind of get used to stuff, make sure stuff isn't breaking on you. You're not super committed. If you screw something up, you're not going to die probably. It's
probably.
You're only probably, there's always a risk of death.
You say that and then you laugh awkwardly like you've almost died many, many times.
I mean, yeah, I've climbed a lot of mountains, so yeah, I've almost died a few times.
As he says with a chuckle.
It's part of the game, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of what makes it fun.
Almost dying. I think my wife would disagree with that.
I don't know, man. There's something to be said about being in the outdoors, being in wilderness, away from cities, no cell service. You have only yourself to depend on to make food and like survive. And I don't know, like that's living to me. That's, you feel so much more alive that way than you do when you're safe.
So you have good life insurance then?
Sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm. My wife and I actually joke a lot about that all the time. Like, oh, if you die, it's cool because I'll be rich.
My wife and I joke about the same thing. Or I should say I joke and she gives me dagger eyes.
Right. Well, my wife's just cooler than yours.
Probably.
I'm just kidding.
My wife and I, we never joke about the other person dying. That's really morbid and fosters something terrible in your relationship. I'm just going to throw that out.
Don't judge. don't try. Don't diss it until you try it, man.
Sorry, I won't yuck your yums anymore.
Just add a little taste of that into your marriage, Steve. See how it goes.
Well, I know
just
how
give
that
it a
would
shot.
go.
Well, you and Jen probably don't have life insurance, so that's probably why you guys don't.
We're just living on the edge over here, man.
That's right. I noticed you got like a candle on in the back there, right next to a fire source. That's not very safe.
Yeah, no. My wife is on vacation right now. She's in New York City. I'm home alone with the kids. We could all just die right any second without her here. That's just life. Life in Indiana.
Oh, this podcast is definitely taking an interesting turn.
So at any moment, it could just be me and Matt talking.
Yeah. This is how in Indiana we live life on the edge. I face those near-death experiences almost every day. I got candles and fireplaces in my house. I don't need to go out and climb a mountain to get that.
Yeah,
that adrenaline rush.
Yeah, or face mountain lions, or worry about bears, or any of that stuff.
That's what our children are for, Matt.
Have you ever faced down a mountain lion or a bear?
No, actually, never had to do that. Thank God. That would suck.
What's your scariest animal interaction you've had out on the when you're out?
Honestly, humans.
Mm-hmm.
Actually had a pretty scary encounter when I was actually camping with my wife and my son. He was like 1 year old, maybe 1.5, and we were camped in national forest, just kind of in this campsite on the side of the road. It was like 1:30 in the morning. These drunk guys drove through our campsite in a truck.
Whoa.
Screaming and yelling and screaming about how we took their campsite, blah, blah, blah. And then, like, they started shooting guns all night. And then the next day, they came up and they had a flat tire and they were asking us for help. And we were like, "Were you guys? You were the guys that drove through our campsite at 1:30 in the morning? Yeah, we're not going to help you." So then they came back about 30 minutes later with the gun, and they were like threatening us with the gun. And so yeah, I've had some interesting experiences up in the mountains, but never with animals. It's always people.
So do you pack heat now when you go?
No, honestly, I don't. And I feel like if I would have had a gun with me, something really dumb would have happened.
Yeah.
Wow, that sounds like a really, really charged situation to be in. Wow.
Yeah.
Do you find when you're out, like, that humans are... You talk a lot about on your podcast about the way humans affect the landscape and the way they can destroy things and stuff like that. Do you see a lot of that when you're out then as well?
Oh, I mean, yeah, I see it pretty much every time I go out. You see either evidence of it or you actually see people doing something that is either diminishing the experience of other people or is having a negative impact on that place, so whether that be people leaving behind trash or leaving, firing guns when there's other people around, or actually going out of their way to do graffiti or damage stuff or defile trees, or like there's all kinds of examples out there of people doing stupid stuff to nature. It's really pretty sad. Womp
Yes.
womp.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I remember just, what was it? Was it your last week? You had the guy who runs the Public Land Hates You Instagram account on your podcast, right?
I did, yeah. That was
you guys were
super
talking a lot
interesting.
about he was calling people out for like walking through poppy fields and stuff like that.
Yeah.
If I remember.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like a lot of what we see out there in landscape, it's not typically people that are just going out of their way to screw stuff up. Most of it's, I think, people that didn't grow up spending time in the outdoors, or maybe they didn't have people in their lives to educate them on, the things that you should look out for. I mean, most people that are going to those poppy fields, I'm guaranteed they didn't wake up in the morning and think to themselves like, "Oh, I know what I'm gonna do today. I'm gonna fuck that place up." You know what I mean? Like they didn't, like that's not what they were thinking.
I'm gonna go fuck some poppies up.
You know what I mean? Like that's not what they said. Like they're like, oh, I want to go to that place. It's really pretty. And then they do stuff when they're there that they don't realize has a negative impact on that place for the future, because they just, nature doesn't come with an instruction book, so it's unfortunately, like, I think as people that enjoy the outdoors, I think it's our responsibility to try to educate ourselves on ethical behavior and try to understand how we can minimize our impact on the places that we visit. So, I don't think people have bad intentions. They just end up doing stuff that has bad impacts.
So most of our listeners are wedding photographers. And so most of the time they're working with subjects. And I know there's...
Oh, you guys have seen it all.
Yeah. A lot of people more recently are doing like crazy adventure, like shoots and stuff like that. And they're going out to places that are, difficult to get to, where they have to climb mountains or go on hikes and stuff like that. And what are some things people should be thinking of, like when they're out there with a model or with an engaged couple or people who just got married, whatever it is, like as far as like where they're walking, what they're doing, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so I wish there was a simple answer in terms of like, oh, just do this and you'll be good to go. I think it's a lot more complicated than that. I think it starts with as humans, we're incredibly gifted with this ability to have the ability to reflect before we take action. So I think that's the most powerful thing and meaningful thing that you can do as a photographer is before you do something, whether it's stage somebody in a location to take a photo, think about what would the possible ramifications of this be? Not just right now, but maybe in 10 years, 20 years. Like if a bunch of other wedding photographers saw this exact setup and wanted to take their clients here, well, what impact would it have if 30 or 40 more wedding parties came to this spot, right? Like, would it be able to sustain that? Can it handle that many more footsteps? Maybe you're going to Utah and you're going to arches or something, and you want to go stand on top of an arch. Well, maybe it's cool if you stand on top of that arch, but what if like 20 people were up there, and like what if 1,000 people and 1 million? Like it's like a snowball that just, And I think that's what people need to start thinking about is kind of the long-term effect of their behavior. A group of photographers here in Colorado, including myself, we actually just released a set of principles to kind of address this issue, to just get people to start thinking about these issues. And it's called Nature First. And it's you can go to naturefirstphotography.org. And really, there's just 7 principles to just start thinking about when you're out in nature as a photographer to hopefully minimize the impact you have on that place so that other people can also enjoy that place. So yeah, I think that's probably the best advice I give people is visit that website and take a look at it and think about what it means in their own practices.
That's awesome. I'm glad there are people out there like you who are taking some action to try to help educate people and teach people how they can be more conscientious. That's really cool.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, it's funny because a lot of people out there think when they hear about this kind of stuff, they're like, oh, they're just elitists, or they just don't want people to go there and they want it for themselves. And that's not our viewpoint. It's not about restricting who gets to go. It's about making sure that the people that do go have an appreciation and understanding of how to make sure that other people can also go and have the same experience that they had.
And also making sure nobody puts like a bridal party on top of one of the arches in Utah and then the arch crumbles and you just watch 20 people in that bridal party die in front of your eyes.
Yeah, I'm sure your insurance agent would appreciate that not happening too.
So have you ever thought about or taken anything other than landscape photography? Have you ever been
yeah.
I want to get into real estate photography or...
I pretty much have done it all, dude. When I bought, so my first serious camera, it was a D800, and I had the Holy Trinity. I had the 14 to 24, 2470, 7200, f2.8, and that's a lot of money. So, and I didn't have cash for all that. So what I did was I did a shitload of senior portraits, and yeah, paid off my gear like in one spring. I just paid off on my gear by doing senior portraits, and
Nice.
like I really enjoy portraiture. I think it's fun. I don't advertise it just because I don't really have a whole lot of time to be able to do it.
Mhm.
But yeah, I like to do portraiture. I've photographed several weddings before. It's not my favorite thing to do just because there's a lot of stuff that can go wrong, and I don't like that stress.
You prefer the stress of things going wrong and then you die on the side of a cliff, right?
Yeah, I'd much rather have that than, an angry bride. Or like you get back and all your photos are slightly blurry. Like, ooh, that's not going to go well.
Artsy.
Right. Oh, that's some nice bokeh.
Make these black and white.
Oh, you guys do that in wedding photo stuff too, huh? That's a shitty shot. I'll turn it to black and white. Maybe it'll look better.
Yep. But you never thought about getting into that trend right now about doing like Steve was mentioning earlier, sort of the elopements on mountaintop kind of thing?
I honestly, no, I haven't thought about it.
Until just now. Cha-ching, cha-ching.
Boom. No, I don't know, man. There's a lot of logistics and planning
And who better to do it than you?
I guess that's true. I guess I could pull it off, but I don't know. If I didn't have a full-time job, I could probably put some thought into that, but my job keeps me pretty busy, plus the podcast, so I don't know. Yeah.
And
that's how I feel.
Your podcast is pretty prolific. You started in April of 2017.
I did, yeah.
And you guys just passed 100 episodes like a month or two ago, right?
Yeah, I try to do one a week.
Mm-hmm. Dustin and I started in August of 2017, and we are coming up on 100 episodes in 4 weeks.
Nice. So you guys know it's hard keeping it going too, especially with two hosts, I bet.
Yeah. It's a little bit easier because if we don't have a guest on, we just talk to each other.
You just ramble.
No,
we that works.
Each other's guests.
That's cool. That's a good idea. I just I don't have any co-hosts or anything like that.
Co-hosts. Yep.
Oh, friends. Yeah, that too. But no, that does make it a lot more challenging though. Trying to find unique guests each week that might have a different perspective or something else to talk about that's interesting. But it's been, man, I'll tell you, like the podcast has been one of the most rewarding things for me to do because, I mean, I've made friends out of it. Like people that I've had on the podcast invite me to go shoot with them all the time now. Like I get invited to go to like conferences and like I get in, it's opened a lot of doors for me. So I definitely encourage people to collaborate with other people as much as they can because, it's not a competition.
Do you feel like starting the podcast has helped you find your voice a little as a photographer?
That's interesting you say that. Through the podcast, I've definitely gained some different viewpoints on photography and on landscape photography and on post-processing. And it's definitely evolved the way I think about photography in general. So yeah, it's definitely helped me kind of, I don't know, like fit more into what my own vision is and kind of hone my vision as a photographer for sure. Absolutely.
Cool.
Do you guys have the experience too?
Yes, all the time. Especially when we have guests on. I feel a lot of our guests are really challenging for me and they challenge the way I think. When we do it every week with Dustin, we kind of play off each other and kind of take the opposite opinion of each other, whether or not we really whether or not we really feel that way. And that sometimes too can kind of open up my eyes to like a different way of thinking about things. But I mean, most of the time we're doing jokes and stuff, and every once in a while we'll do a joke that's so good it's actually a genius thing.
Nice.
Like
burning a venue down or something like that.
Yeah, definitely that one. That was the one I was thinking of.
Oh, is that not it? That's not the first one that came? No? Okay.
No. I actually just finished editing an episode and posting one today in which you were like, oh my gosh, Steve, I know you were joking, but that's a really great idea. If we could find a way to make it so that when a bride shares our stuff, we gamify that so we get more like the more they share, the...
Oh, yeah. That is a good idea.
Yeah, that whole thing, which was just me joking around because I thought it was a terrible idea. But you thought it was great, so that's good.
I might have to start a secondary brand where that's how I charge.
Charge and exposure. Say, I bet as wedding photographers, you guys probably put a lot more thought into the business side of photography than most landscape photographers do. Because a lot of nature and landscape photographers are just doing it for fun, or, you know, it's more of a hobby or whatever. But I mean, you guys, it's like, it's the bottom line. And so I bet you're thinking a lot more about marketing and contracts and insurance and how to get more business and stuff like that, which not a lot of landscape photographers are thinking about that stuff. Or if they do, it's like secondary, you know?
So without further ado, let's cross over into the drone zone.
I do need to ask one gear-related question, before we get into questions and answers. And that is, as a landscape photographer, are you using drones? Like, is that impacting your sort of what you do, what you can see? Because I'm like, I'd love to be a landscape photographer, but I would just start at the bottom of the mountain and I would fly my drone up to the top.
So I'd say my answer is probably twofold.
I love a twofold
I'm excited
answer.
for this because I've been listening to Matt's podcast, so I already kind of know what he's going to say.
Oh, well, maybe I'll change my answer just to throw you off.
No.
So I think drones are pretty amazing. They open up a whole new world and a whole new artistic way to express yourself. You can see the world in totally different ways. I think there's a lot of really cool shit you can do with a drone that honestly just isn't available otherwise. I'd say the flip side of that is a couple things. One, drones are pretty loud, and when you're in nature, like, the last thing you want to hear is a bunch of like helicopters flying around over your head. So that can be something that detracts from the experience. And for me, I know when I'm in a location and there's drones or a drone flying around, it just changes the way I photograph that scene on the ground. It's just harder for me to connect with that place. And then I think the other thing is, as a mountain climber, I'm like, fuck you, because like I worked my ass off to get those shots, and you're just flying this machine up there, so that's not fair. So, but yeah, there's definitely pros and cons to drones. I don't have one. I've never used one, but I think they're really interesting, and definitely opens up a lot of interesting windows for people.
That maybe you would get one just for selfies. Right.
Well, a lot of people do that, like take videos of them like on a mountain or whatever, but I don't know, it's not for me.
Yeah. Well, a lot of the parks though don't allow you to fly drones either though, right?
Well, yeah, and a lot of the places that I like to go are wilderness areas, and you're not allowed to operate a drone from within a wilderness area. Although the rules are stupid in that you can fly a drone from outside of a wilderness area into the wilderness area. So that's kind of lame, but yeah. Yeah.
There you go.
I have mixed feelings about drones. Drones are okay as long as you're thoughtful about how you use them.
There you go.
That's what I'd say.
Politically correct answer.
Yeah. If there's a shitload of other people around, or like even worse, if there's like one or two other people around, like, don't be that guy. It's like when you ever been on a hike or something in nature, no. And there's always that guy that's got like the Bluetooth speaker and he's like jamming out to his music, but like everyone else can hear his shitty music. And you're like, I just want to like experience nature. I don't want to hear your shitty music, pal.
And
right?
What shitty music would that be typically?
I mean, even if it's music I like, I'm like, dude, no one wants to hear your music.
Oh, come on. I want to hear you put some bands on blast.
No, man, I'm not going to do that.
Was it Nickelback?
Nickelback, Creed.
Taylor Swift.
Hey, Taylor Swift's got some good stuff, man.
Well, there you go. We got a Tay-Tay fan.
I just don't want to hear it from your Bluetooth speaker while I'm hiking.
That's right. If you're
That's
gonna
what
do
headphones are
it from a Bose speaker. Come on, don't be a jerk.
Yeah, or wear headphones. I mean, come on,
Put
dude.
those headphones in, and then when the mountain lions and grizzly bears come, you won't be able to hear them.
Well, that's even better.
That way you don't know you're about to die, so you don't have any fear when it happens.
Yeah, let's be honest. Like, the chances of you fighting off a mountain lion or bear are pretty small.
I saw these vests, like these jackets you can buy for your pets today, that have neon colored spikes that shoot out the back that are supposed to detour mountain lions and hyenas and bobcats and stuff from eating your dogs.
Oh,
So I was wondering if maybe you could adapt something like that for climbers.
Oh, so they'll stay away from your dog, but they'll get you? Is that
Mhm.
how it goes? Yeah. Cool.
Yeah,
Or maybe you could just wear it.
that's what I'm saying. You wear it when you climb.
Right,
You
exactly.
should partner with these guys, start a whole new division of their product line.
No, that's why you bring your kids with you, because you're probably faster than your kid, and you can outrun him.
That is why I thought people reproduce. Yep, for
Yeah,
mountain lion
exactly.
bait.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah, only the strong kids survive, and they'll know to use their kids as bait as well.
It's natural selection.
So, Matt, do you have some time to do some Q&A with us, or?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
I heard you got some weird questions that you randomly selected from the internet.
Or they randomly selected us. It's
Where
really
did
hard
you
to say.
did you pull them off of like 4chan or something? Like, how are you finding these questions?
I am in a lot of Facebook groups.
Steve goes deep into the black web of Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
So are these questions specifically about me, or are they just random questions?
Just random
These
questions.
are about you. There are a lot of fan
I heard
sites.
Matt
that have
Payne
popped
has a
up.
tail. Can anyone confirm?
Oh, that's awesome.
I heard he rode a unicorn once.
That's true.
Right over a rainbow. It's when he got his very best shot ever. It was a night shot,
no,
too, surprisingly.
Sorry, that was Photoshop.
That's why he has the colors of the rainbow in his logo.
That's right.
Full circle.
Right.
Let's do some Q&A.
But Steve.
All right, so our first question comes from Nash from a random Facebook group. And Nash asks, I'm about to go backpacking with a bunch of city slickers, and he did put quotes around that, on a photography workshop thing. I don't want to sound like a noob. What's some cool lingo I can use to try to sound elite on the trails? I can't go out there like a default.
Wow.
Nash is a gamer. He's definitely a gamer.
What's
yeah.
elite?
Elite, like elite. And he
That's
spelled
one-
it 1337. So he's not just a gamer, he's also a gamer from like 10 years
How
ago.
did you decipher that? Like, I
Because
had no
I
idea.
used to play video games online 10 years ago.
Well, I'm not gonna lie. I used to play World of Warcraft like a crazy person, so
Wow.
I get all that lead speak. But so okay, Nash. So first of all, you got to learn how to use the word stoke, right?
Mhm.
So I personally hate it when, like the millennials now, they're using the word stoke. Like I think our generation, you'd say like, oh, I'm stoked for that
Right.
thing. Like I'm excited. But now it's being used like, oh, that really fuels my stoke. Or
What?
yeah, they're using it as like a verb, it's
It's like a metaphor for their anus.
no, it's no, I'm just kidding. I would never encourage any more people to use the word stoke. But you see Outside Magazine using it a lot in their articles. But gosh, dude,
Fuels my stoke.
maybe just learn some map skills. Like, I feel like that would impress all kinds of people, is be able to show them a topo map and, show them where you're at on the map and where you're going on the map and how you figured it out. Like, not a lot of people can do that these days, and I feel like that's a pretty essential thing to be able to know how to do in the backcountry, but also if you're with a bunch of people that don't spend a lot of time out there, that probably might impress them. Although if you're worried about impressing a bunch of city slickers, like, I don't know, maybe you shouldn't be backpacking.
That's what I was thinking.
Also, if you're referring to people as city slickers?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in the city, but I also like to go outside. I don't know.
I imagine Nash is 45. Just ballparking it.
I don't know. He did say elite. No, elite, right?
Yes.
In a code that I would not have been able to decipher.
Dustin's the youngest person on this podcast, so.
He may or may not live with his parents still.
Probably in their basement.
His parents may or may not be the city slickers that he's going on this workshop with.
Which I'm not going to lie. When I met my wife and I was 26, I lived in my parents' basement, so I can make fun of that shit all day.
You got a strong game.
That's right. That's right. I ain't no city slicker.
Free rent. You're saving up your money.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
So buy the holy trinity of Nikon glass.
No, you had to do senior shoots for those.
Do you guys like senior portraits? I think that one-on-one is kind of fun.
Mm-hmm. Taking their pictures. Yep.
No, I hate it.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Huh.
I don't do a lot of that kind of stuff. My wife does more of that, but yeah, I'd rather do a wedding any day.
Yeah, definitely rather do a wedding.
Actually, I want to correct that. I'd rather do an engagement. When there's just one person, it's like super hard to get them to pose and act natural, I find. But when there's two people, it's really easy to get them to play off each other and to get them to like make jokes, make each other laugh, that kind of stuff. So I find it's very easy then. And an engagement session is very low pressure. Like there's not a lot of stress there. Which is why Dustin was saying you should get into elopements on the sides of mountains and stuff, because it's like a low pressure sort of thing to do, like, you know, photos there, because it's just two people. You can take all the time you need. There's nobody else there. It's not like a real wedding day where it's going to be 8 hours of just one thing after the next. So
that's what I like about a wedding, because then I'm forced to be like, I guess we're done. We got to go get the ceremony started.
Right. You're on a time schedule. I get that. I don't know. I've done all three of those. I've done engagements, I've done portraits, and I've done weddings. And I don't know. I like the one-on-one. I think it's. I have a master's degree in clinical psychology, so I'm used to.
What are you doing with photography?
So I'm used to like one-on-one with people and like trying to get to know them and trying to figure out what makes them tick. And so like one-on-one, that's easy for me.
That shines through a lot in your podcast, because you are very good in your podcast when you're just talking with like one person, just kind of like going back and forth with them. And it really feels like you're figuring them out and figuring out how they think and stuff. And like it kind of exposing that to everybody who's listening. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So we should brainstorm some website URLs for this new business I'm going to create, like mountainelopement.photography.com or
Adventure Weddings by Mac.
Or No Pain, No Gain Elopements.
Ooh, I like that one.
Yeah.
How about cityslickersinthemountains.com?
City Slickers in the Mountains.
I like it.
Maybe not .com. Is .1337 a thing? Can you get that now?
Oh, yeah, .leet. I like it.
I feel so out of the loop that you guys know this whole leet lingo, and I'm so in the black.
Did you ever play Halo? I mean,
you're the noob.
I never had time to play games, man.
You're the noob.
Or what did he say? Default? I didn't heard that one before. That was interesting. I mean, I get it.
I only ever played Smash Brothers. That was the only in 007. That was the only.
Oh, GoldenEye is classic.
GoldenEye and Smash Brothers. That was it for me. And Tony Hawk. I guess that was my three.
Man, I'm a nerd, dude. I played so much video games. It's kind of sad.
Yeah.
I mean, sad or super cool, however you want to phrase it, but super cool. I would go with super cool. Definitely.
That's why I got into mountain climbing, because I was getting fat. I'm serious.
You just have to wait until I'm like tipping my beer back, and you're like,
I could go on a diet. I could go to the gym. I think I'm just gonna climb an effing mountain.
Yeah, I mean, why not just do that?
Probably because I feel as a fat man myself, I would get eaten by a mountain lion.
Nah, man.
no, they'd be
fine.
scared of you. You look big. You look strong. You're a big, strong Dustin.
I look like a snack, as my wife says. I assume that means that I would be tasty.
That's a sex thing, Dustin.
I was gonna say, I think
that
that's
what that is?
sexual.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's very sexual.
Maybe I should go.
Yeah, you should. Did she just say that? I'll finish up with Matt. You go have sex. Have fun, buddy.
Okay. But what about Rhonda?
You look like a snack.
It's not quite how she phrased it.
Rhonda wants to know, how does Matt look like a snack all the time on those mountainsides?
Rhonda from a random Facebook group asked the following: in need of help, went to geotag for a lake, and there is no lake. Did God suck up all the water? How can I get a pic for my Instagram now? Crying face emoji.
Wow, that's fascinating.
Matt, how are we going to help Rhonda out? God did done suck up all that water.
He needed a drink.
There's
so
no
she's
lake.
actually at the lake, or she doesn't know how to find the lake?
These are both great questions.
I'm going to be right back.
Wow.
Well,
Wow, Matt. I mean, now we're going to get to see how long Dustin lasts in the sack. This is really weird and awkward. So start your timers at home, everybody. Dustin just left. It's about a 15-second walk up to the bedroom. I'm assuming maybe 5-10 seconds to put a condom on. We don't know. He'll be back in a little bit.
oh, he's back.
Whoa. That was fast, Dustin.
What?
Matt and I were just talking about how your wife's probably unsatisfied. Jeez.
That's all I needed.
So I don't exactly understand her question, but I think if you're depending on geotags to find interesting places to photograph, you should probably just get a map out, or
what's a map? Is that on your phone? Is that an app?
It's like a piece of paper with lines on it. And
So it's like a
that's
graph.
Yes, exactly.
Interesting.
I think we had maps back in school. I remember
Right.
those.
So like a globe with paper around it?
Yeah, except for it's not round.
Okay.
No. I want to see Dustin out in the wilderness with a globe. I know where we're going.
That would be amazing. He's like, I proved you. It's flat Earth. We've been walking for 4 hours and we still haven't gotten to Florida.
Sounds about right. So wait, the Earth isn't flat?
Right. Well, is it?
It is here in Indiana.
Not if you shoot with a fisheye.
Ooh. Then you can see the curvature of the Earth with a fisheye lens.
That's right. That's what they're all saying. Like, oh, it just looks that way because they use a fisheye lens.
So how about this one then? Kyler from a random Facebook group asks, I dropped my polarized lens filter on some boulders. It broke. There's a big hole in the middle, but the sides are intact. I have polarized sunglasses. I also have another polarized lens filter in my car, but that's like a 2-mile hike back the way I just came from. And I've still got 8 miles to go till I hit the place I want to photograph. What should I do?
Well, unless you're shooting waterfalls or like water, you probably don't need a polarizer. In fact, I highly discourage people from using filters in general, just because if you're shooting raw, like you can't undo the filter that's on the lens. So that's my personal take on it, having ruined many, many, many photographs with filters. So would I use the sunglasses? No, probably not.
But I've got an idea here. You pop the lens out of the polarized sunglasses, and then you just tape it over the hole in the polarized filter. Now you're ready to roll, right?
Boom.
Yeah, just ignore the lines from the edges of the sunglasses. No. I mean, honestly, like, couldn't you just do like a stitch photo where you shoot with the polarizer, stitch it, and then the part that has the hole in the middle, you just fill in with the polarized version.
Oh, this is the best idea ever.
I mean, landscape photographers, we're used to doing all kinds of stupid shit for our photos. So.
I mean, I have seen that you have some panorama awards, so I assume you know how to stitch. Yeah, so.
Yeah, so just take 2 photos, one of them, stitch, or just, use Photoshop and blend in the layer that's got the polarized section for that hole, and good to go.
It's like a patchwork quilt.
I love it. I love it so much.
Why not?
Tiff from a random Facebook group asks, is my camera broke? I went for a hike. I took some photos of some amazing shit I saw, like a purple lake. I don't know if it was sunset or what, but it was amazing. I just was editing my photos, and there were no amazing photos when I was editing them. It was all just rocks and trees and basic blue lake shit. What's going on with my camera? Now, this one, there is an update. And the update says, I was hungry on my hike and did eat some mushrooms another hiker offered me. Nothing out of the ordinary.
Hey, well, that shit's legal in Colorado now. So she must live in Denver. She's probably ate a fuckload of edibles. And
she was hiking around downtown Denver.
She's probably at a fish show, and she was like, "Oh my god, that's an amazing lake." I have no answer for that can be actually legit. I mean, it's almost always user error. Come on, let's face it. So you probably just need to learn how to use your camera better.
Dustin, do you want to take this last one?
Sure. Oh, Lachlan from a random Facebook group asked the following. My tripod is missing 2 legs and won't stand up.
It's called a monopod.
It's a Manfrotto. It was pretty cheap.
There's your problem.
But I wouldn't think that's the problem. The model is called a monopod. A few people told me with that model you only need 1 leg. But when I try to set it up, it keeps falling over. And I'm afraid my camera or legs will break if I keep trying. Please advise.
All right, so here's what you got to do. What's his name?
Lachlan.
Lachlan, that's a sweet name, dude.
Mm-hmm.
So, Lachlan, here's what you got to do. So, a lot of us landscape photographers started out without a tripod because we're stupid. And so what you do is you find a bunch of rocks and you pile them up and you make your own tripod. Done.
Boom.
Done.
So you take rocks and you pile the rocks into 2 legs, and then you put
just need to
the other leg from your tripod monopod up against the 2 legs that you've created with rocks. Is that what you're saying?
That would be amazing. That would be amazing. Yeah.
So
I would love to see that.
People would just be walking around all over the place in Denver, and they're like, "Why the hell are these rocks piled up?
These 2 pile of rocks.
2 piles right next to each other. What the hell's going on here?"
It would be super convenient if there were 3 piles. Then I wouldn't need to carry around this stupid, monopod tripod.
Yeah, I would say that Lachlan probably should go back to high school geometry also. So, but in all seriousness, though, with modern cameras, like the need for a tripod is quickly diminishing. I think you can get really good results now without a tripod. In fact, I just had a guy on my podcast. He's from New Zealand, and he doesn't use a tripod at all. And his photos are
Trey Redcliffe.
No, his name's William Patino.
William Patino.
And yeah, he's got some amazing stuff, and he doesn't use a tripod ever.
Cool.
So it's totally doable these days, especially with high ISO and
drones.
What tripod would you recommend?
It's hard for me to answer that question, but the tripod that I use is because I do a lot of backpacking.
Mm-hmm.
It's a Fisal. It's called a Fisal Tournament 3442, and it weighs like 2 pounds. Sturdy, carbon fiber. It's really light, small, compact, easy to use. super sturdy. I've used it since like 2014, and it's never let me down. So I like it.
Do you only choose to use a tripod when you're doing water stuff?
I use a tripod probably for 80% of my stuff personally, but that's so that I can hold a beer in one hand.
Nice. Now, is this a tripod with one leg, two leg, three leg?
You know, I have other means to hold the other leg up, so.
Is it a quad pod? Are there four legs? Is it a pentapod?
Right, exactly.
I personally like to go out with an octopod, and I just put all 8 legs down real fast, and it's real sturdy, and it never tips over. It's good.
Yeah, and it weighs like 40 pounds.
Yeah, and it's a bitch to get level, but some things are.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what the ball head's for.
Yeah. Wait, what? A ball head?
You don't use ball heads?
I'm joking.
Oh, okay. I don't know. You wedding guys are weird.
We don't use tripods, period.
Yeah. I was going to say the only thing you use a tripod for is probably for like external lighting, right?
Nope.
We use light stands.
Yeah,
technically tripods, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I have a Manfrotto light stand that I use for my
Whoa.
stuff.
Wait, weren't you giving Manfrotto shit earlier?
Yeah, that's why I had to make fun of the Manfrotto question earlier.
Oh, wait, explain yourself. Why do you hate Manfrotto?
I don't know. I just don't think they're that good.
They're a sponsor of this podcast.
Are they really?
No.
Before I started doing photos, I was doing, I went to school for video. That's what I originally did. And in video, it's Manfrotto or nothing, it seems like.
Interesting.
Because of the fluid heads. Their fluid heads are so good.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's kind of the way it is with a lot of equipment, right? Like it's super specialized for something, and
yeah,
it's just, I don't know. I don't think they're that great for landscape photography, but I'm kind of picky when it comes to that because I want something super light, super sturdy.
So, Matt, thank you so much for joining us this week on our podcast. This has actually been a ton of fun, and I'm really glad we got to have a landscape photographer on to talk to us on our wedding photography podcast. Where can people find you if they're interested in finding out more about you and what you do?
You can go to mountainelopement.com. No, just my main website, mattpaynephotography.com, and Instagram, Matt Payne Photo. And then my podcast, you can find all my podcast episodes on my website. There's a podcast link. And there's a bunch of social media for the podcast as well, which is pretty easy to find unless you're super lazy. So, yeah.
Nice.
Check it out on iTunes, f-stop, collaborate, and listen.
Matt is back with a brand new edition.
So we were talking earlier about Patreon. So a few months back, I hit $500 a month on Patreon.
You're close to 1,000 now.
Yeah, so not a big deal, but I did I recorded a video of me rapping to Vanilla Ice, Ice Ice Baby, for my patrons, but I changed all of the words to the song to be relevant to every episode of the podcast that I had released to that point. It was really hard.
Yeah, that sounds super hard. Why would you do that to yourself?
It was fun. And listeners enjoyed watching me make a fool of myself, which I do every week. So
you're just a means of entertainment now.
I know, it's people use me for that. Sad.
Dance, monkey, dance.
That's right. Well, you guys are a lot of fun. Thanks for inviting me into the show.
Thanks for letting us invite you onto the show.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. It was a blast. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Wedding Photo Hangover Podcast with Dustin and Steve. If you want to help us out, jump on iTunes or Stitcher and leave us a 5-star review. If you want to connect, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Wedding Photo Hangover or on Twitter at WedPicHangover. Dustin is on Instagram at Dustin_McKibben. And Steven is at Steven Van Elk. If you want to get involved with the awesome community of listeners, join the Wedding Hangover Facebook group. But if you really want to warm our hearts, head on over to Steve and Dustin SaveTheWorld.com. And you can sign up to support us for $5 a month, and you'll get bonus content like bonus episodes of a podcast called Steve and Dustin Save the World, where we save the world one question at a time.
That's true.
Dustin, what did we talk about last week on Steve and Dustin Save the World?
All kinds of good things.
Yeah, you don't remember, do you? You don't remember shit. That was published today. You should know this. You piece of shit.
My daughter's been throwing up all day.
Okay, I'm going to give you a pass this week. Next week, there will be a test. I will quiz you, and if you don't pass that test, you will be fired from the Steve and Dustin Save the World. It's going to become SteveSavesTheWorld.com.
That domain was taken.
This week, we need to send out a big thank you to another person who's signed up on Patreon to support Steve and Dustin SaveTheWorld.com, and that is listener Devin Rowland.
Jennifer Van Elk.
Please don't. Listener Devin Rowland has signed up to help Steve and Dustin save the world one question at a time. Thank you so much, Devin.
Thank you so much, Devin. We appreciate it.
It means the world to us, and it means the world to all the good people that we're helping out. If you want to be just like Devin Rowland, you can head over to SteveandDustinSaveTheWorld.com and sign up for just $5 a month, and you can get all that good bonus content like this. Like if we have any sort of outtakes that seem worthwhile for people to hear, for $5 a month or for $7.50 a month, if you want to go ad-free, you can listen to all of our episodes without ads. You know, the ads, are they funny? Are they annoying? They're annoying. So if you want to get rid of them just for $7.50 a month, you can get all of the episodes without any ads, and you get all the bonus content that we put out there.
Worth it.
Totally worth it. So, I lost my train of thought. I don't know where I was going with that. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time your head is pounding, your limbs feel like dead weight, and your entire being aches for the sweet embrace of death. That's right, next Sunday after you shoot another wedding. So last week we talked about Ulysses afterwards, after he, signed up on Patreon. Are we going to talk about Devin this week after she signed up on Patreon to support us? Is that what you wanted to do?
Well, difference is I like Devin, so I don't really have anything negative to say about Devin.
Devin's a very nice person.
Yeah.
Yeah, she came all the way to Indiana to see us, and you didn't show up.
To see you.
No,
she came all the way
invited
to see
you to come to Indy as well.
No, I invited Devin to come to Fort Wayne. You invited her to come to Indy. There was a test thrown on the table. She chose Indy. Test failed.
Can you blame her? Have you been to Fort Wayne?
Yeah. Have I been to Fort Wayne? Once or twice, passing through.
Yeah, and you would choose to go to Indy if you were passing through Indiana too.
That's not the point, Steven. Not the point.
I think that is the point. Dustin, it is late. We both need to go to bed. Dustin, did you see Detective Pikachu yet?
No.
You said you were so jazzed for that movie.
I was actually just looking at tickets today for it, and instead we bought tickets to go see Aladdin.
Jen is in NYC, and she was like, while I'm gone, maybe do something cool with the kids, like take them to see Detective Pikachu. And I was like, Nora is 3 years old. There's no way she is age appropriate for that movie. It's got Ryan Reynolds in it. I don't know if you know this, but he plays a little character called Deadpool. I can't go to any movie with Ryan Reynolds because it's just going to be all F words all over the place now. Do you want to hear Pikachu say fuck?
I do.
Fuck at you. Now give me your best one. Pikachu. Well, that's good. I like that one. That's real
like
good.
The Smash Brothers, like quick lightning strike attack.
So we gotta go now. So big thanks to our special guest this week, Matt Payne, for bringing the heat, talking about landscape photography. It was a really blast to have him on the podcast.
We are super excited that we have encouraged and inspired him to start his new business called Matt Payne Elopements.
Yeah.
No pain, no gain.
No pain, no gain. But it's midnight and we gotta go to bed. So, bye.
Good night.
That's why I shoot Sony.
Mm.
I'm not gonna lie, dude. Sony feels better in my hands. Like I tried to shoot a Canon 5DSR. It's too much girth. That's what she said.
Wedding Photo Hangover was edited this week by Steve Van Elk of Bespoke Tone. Go to Bespoke Tone for all of your photo, video, and audio editing needs. Woo-wee!